All right, Kat, you can take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Mary Beth. And I really appreciate you giving me the platform to share some information. So I'm Kat. Thank you, Mary Beth. You already gave me an introduction. I spoke, was it just last week, with the steering committee to introduce myself. And I've been working now with the New Hampshire Community Loan Fund for what's soon going to be 4 months, so I'm still very new, and I'm new to New Hampshire. So something I'm realizing is that there's a bit of unfamiliarity with the New Hampshire Community Loan Fund, and so starting with making sure I introduce not only myself but my employer, who frankly is still a little new to me. But I'm realizing that they're new to a lot of people. So, as Mary Beth referenced, I've come into the loan fund as a director of federal programs. The Community Loan Fund is a community development lender, a CDFI. Some people are familiar with that term, a community development finance institution. And really, what CDFIs are is they were kind of the civil rights response to predatory banking, starting in the late 60s, 70s, and really got formalized and going in the 80s. I think a lot of folks are familiar reading books like The Color of Law about how banking policies have further exacerbated marginalization of certain communities, low income communities, for a very long time. And so folks who realize that financing is really key to help people get themselves out of poverty, that everybody, has a right to at least have a chance to invest in themselves and their homes. That's really what the CDFI movement is about now for many decades, going strong. And the New Hampshire Community Loan Fund, obviously always hear from New Hampshire, but it's one of the larger and most successful and impactful CDFIs in the country, and it's right here in New Hampshire. So we focus on giving out lending at low competitive terms for community development work like affordable housing, like childcare, like small business growth. And we've had a track record now for many years of doing climate related lending, a lot of renewable energy, solar. We just closed a couple of weeks ago on a solar project for a senior center, for example. So we've been doing this work for a while, but what I am here to talk about is we've applied for federal funding to really take this climate lending work that we're already doing and kick it up to the next level and really lock in that there are these lower interest rates that really make it an opportunity for people that are trying to fund climate projects that otherwise they wouldn't be able to pursue. Is it an option, Mary Beth, to share my screen? You're on mute.
You should be able to go ahead and give it a try.
Perfect. All right, let me I don't have too much to show, but what I do have, I'll make sure you can see. There we go. Gonna go back one. So here's our logo. A thing that really has the Community Loan Fund on the map is that we're one of the first organizations that really supported and accelerated the work to organize manufactured home communities as co-ops, so self-directed, empowered, and more secure for residents communities. So here's a really great image of one of the resident-owned communities, Rocks in New Hampshire, that we've been able to support to get a community solar system that serves them, helps them to be able to go electric, more efficient, and but at the same time saving money through the community solar aspect. Um, this I am going to be able to share more information, but our shop is still developing that information, and I don't want to get it to you in print half baked when our team is working really hard to get some nice uh, well formatted information to you. But here's some of the takeaways for what we are looking at. We're looking at being able to do oh, sorry, there's something that was carried over here. Low cost solar loans, and then also green technology and efficiency tools to do lending for that. Um, with loan amounts, we're talking about up to $200,000 for some solar loans, and larger amounts, $15,000 to $1 million for clean technology and efficiency loans. Terms for payback are here. I've been 10 up to 10 years for the clean technology and efficiency projects. And what's really exciting for us is the pricing, the interest rate. As you guys know, interest rates have been high for the past several years to calm inflation, which also calms, the work that a lot of people can do if they need some financing to get it done. So we're still waiting for contracts to be finalized in the next month or so, but pending that confirmation and receipt of these federal funds, we're going to be able to, in some cases, go as low as 3.5% financing for solar loans, and for clean technology, energy efficiency, as low as 5 to 8% for these loans. So what is our hope for where this can get picked up? It's where there's been a project that a community has been dreaming about for a while, but that financing has been the sticking point. How do we finance it? In terms of what next steps are, we obviously are doing all the work that we need to do to actually lock in this financing. But what you guys can do, and this is when I learned about the New Hampshire network existing and being this great group of people that are together thinking about energy efficiency in all of your communities and trying to help be the facilitators, the connectors of resources and good projects and good people. I wanted you guys to know about this. The next step would be reaching out to me at the Community Loan Fund saying, Kat, we this community center, this school has been looking for to be able to do a solar installation for years now. Maybe this pricing now is something that can help them do it. Then those are the conversations that we want to have. There's one caveat that I'm going to have to include when we do finalize our nice handout. The loan fund does not do direct to consumer lending except for the mortgage lending that we do on manufactured homes. So what does that mean? That means that when we're talking about funding energy efficiency, so maybe installing heat pumps, doing weatherization, switching over to other high efficiency appliances in your home, we can do that in the case of private homes that are manufactured homes financed through our Welcome Home Loan program. Otherwise, we do lending to businesses and community entities. So if you're a business, if you are a nonprofit, a school, a church, those are the kinds of projects we can lend. Unfortunately, we don't do, for example, solar installations. We can't finance those on somebody's home. Sorry, when I say the home financing, we do the mortgages. So distinction between doing solar panel on somebody's home versus financing the manufactured home itself. So that is the opportunity that currently exists. And now I'm going to stop talking to see what questions you guys have, but I'm just hopeful that you guys are the right people to make aware of this opportunity and spread the word so that we can get this good financing to the projects that really need it.
Could you just repeat,
Well-
because the last part got the audio is a little bit off. And
Sorry.
so you were talking about the difference between direct and indirect loans in terms of mortgages versus solar. Could you just say that again because it didn't come through clearly?
Yeah, apologies. And you know what? If my internet is slow, I'm going to turn off my video. That'll hopefully boost the audio quality. So that's the direct to consumer loans. So a private household, the lending that the community loan fund can do to them is to get a mortgage on a manufactured home. That's really the only direct to consumer lending we can do. We do direct to business, direct to community entity, direct to a school system, for example, those are the types of community and business lending that we can do. So if you're talking about financing a solar panel on a church, on a school, for a community center, happy to have those calls. What we can't do is say finance a solar panel at somebody's private home, because that's considered direct consumer lending.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you for asking for the clarification. It's a good point to
Linda had a
clarify.
question? Go ahead, Linda.
Hi, Kat. Just to
Linda.
clarify, so a condominium association that is a nonprofit, though it's residences, would that be eligible?
My understanding is that it would. Yes, Linda.
Thank you.
I had some questions about what you mean with clean tech and efficiency. So for example, my church has an industrial kitchen. If we wanted to remove our gas stove and put in the conduction, would that be eligible?
I believe it would be the metric for projects qualifying for this funding. This is the funding that I'm sure you guys are aware of coming through the Inflation Reduction Act, the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, and the primary metric for projects to qualify is that they are lowering carbon emissions. So if you're taking out a system that had a bigger carbon footprint than the system going in, generally we can say yes, it will fit. But that said, we do need to take it on a project by project basis and just make sure that the requirements of the program are being met. And actually, that's a really good opportunity for me to clarify, with this being federal funding, for those who've ever been familiar with trying to fund projects and appreciating the array of sources that funding can come from. A lot of people will avoid federal funding because it is so heavily documented and tracked. So there are some additional processes that people need to go through to get this funding, such as making sure you're doing procurement, that you're, looking across several different vendors for a given project. You're not doing a backroom deal with somebody. But our intent at the Community Loan Fund, given that we solicited this funding and we're now trying to put it out in the community, we want to have the technical assistance to help folks make sure you're navigating all of that. You would be doing it together with our support.
I might have missed it, but does this apply to EVs?
Yes, it can be used for EVs.
Nice.
It's the tricky point there is it goes back to the consumer lending. So, a private household getting an EV, we cannot do that, but we can help a business that is getting, an EV for their business, or some other kind of a fleet that somebody's using.
Yeah, I was thinking police departments, fire departments, parks and recs.
Yeah. And again, that's why when I heard that you guys existed as a group, I was like, oh gosh, because my background is working in regional planning and energy efficiency, and then also in affordable housing. But I've done a lot of work. I actually live over in Vermont and done a lot of work with that network of energy committees. And you guys are just so well positioned for your lens that you're seeing the local needs and talking at that higher level to see what the resources are. You guys are like the perfect matchmakers to make this kind of work actually move forward.
So I'm really glad you asked that question, Zeke, because I hadn't thought that it applied to EVs, and our energy committee is asking our town to consider buying some EVs for the police department. So this might be very timely. At some point, when other folks are finished with questions, could you walk us through what's the process? So if we're interested in this, what's the next step? What's the process?
So the next step, we ourselves are still kind of catching up and setting up the process. We are still, I did have a little asterisk in the slide that I had up. All of this is pending actually finalizing contracts and pulling down this money in the coming months. So in light of that, we're still coming up with our process. For right now, what the process is following up with me because there is a little bit of an aspect to, case by case basis, looking at projects, making sure that they get through the, this is certainly a qualified project. This is the type of a loan that we can do. I'm going to be the first line to navigate that. And then if we figure out that this is a good match for this funding, then you would work with our loan staff, which is not me, in our business and community lending department to actually, start working on a loan and doing some underwriting.
Okay.
Question about the funding. So if it's coming from the IRA, do you know if it can be used in conjunction with other, say, grants that are also sourced from the IRA?
What we've heard so far is yes. As contracts are finalized and terms are literally put in paper and signed, then we can start to talk more concretely and get, kind of written clarity on that. But in a lot of the conversations that have been happening, the general feeling is yes.
Okay.
So, an example of a project, an area of work that we've so far considered this is a good match for is there's a REAP program through USDA to help some businesses get solar. And that is a 50% grant. And I think so far what we've been able to determine is, wow, you could actually finance the other 50% of that solar project, get 50% for the loan through the USDA, and then finance the other 50%, which just takes that, from being an impossible project to do to, wow, you can actually get it done. So I should keep hedging everything I'm saying. We're still finalizing contracts and all of that. But that is our current understanding.
Yeah, that's good. I was just speaking to Katrine about this because there's the current low income RFP, solar RFP that got announced.
Yes.
I think it covers like $400,000, and I had said, something like the large mobile park communities in Exeter could take advantage of it. I think they're already doing stuff with this, but if they could also take advantage of the loans you're talking about, it could also help. Katrina, I don't know if you've told them about it, but would probably be helpful.
Kat, do you think it would include turning municipal lights to solar?
Yeah, very possibly. This is where I'm at a disadvantage because I've not done lending before. I've worked quite a bit in the past with grant funding. So one thing that I think has been a stumbling block in the past for the community loan fund is some municipalities are not able to take on debt. And so sometimes there's kind of a creative way that we have to go around making sure that we can give a loan and a municipality can access financing in a way that works. So I guess I should also throw that caveat out also because I'm still learning about it, so I can't talk about it super intelligently, but I can say that is absolutely the intent of what we're going to try to be able to fund with this. And it feels logical to me, maybe when, like I said, case by case basis, especially at the beginning, to put a given proposal through the web of, the program specifics. And then we'll find out pretty quickly what's workable. But I think the start, this is why I'm here, is let's just put out the call. Let's find some projects. Let's start putting them through the process, and then we'll get an understanding very quickly for what works.
Thank you.
Hi, Kat. I joined late. I apologize. Will you be sharing your slide deck?
Yeah. Hi, Gabrielle. So I don't think I'll share my slide deck necessarily. What is happening, and I regret to say, I'm actually headed out on a bit of an extended holiday later this afternoon, which is why I appreciate you guys putting me at the top of your meeting. I think I've got to get to the airport. I have to leave at 4. Right now in my office, they're finalizing, some real materials to clarify the terms of the project and advertise it. I believe that process is going to get finished after I leave the office today at 4. So what I'm thinking about doing is sending an email to connect the folks I was in touch with ahead of today with somebody else in our office, so that as soon as that is ready, it can be shared with the group.
Pat, real quickly, your email?
C Bryars, BRYARS, at communityloanfund.org.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And Kat, I also had a quick question. Sorry if you already addressed this. Is there any kind of means or income testing for these loans at the town level?
That is a good question too, because there is some requirement with the funds. They're supposed to be directed to low income and disadvantaged communities, and there's several ways to achieve that determination. So some communities are mapped already, and it's very easy to say, oh, well, you're in this town, which has already been flagged as a low income disadvantaged community, a LIDAC community. In the case where it's somebody outside of that, but who could qualify as low income, we are going to have to figure out exactly how we document that.
Okay, but there would need to be, so if it's a town that's not low income, they might not be eligible for this form of funding or this kind of loan.
Yeah, it's not 100% of the funding has to go to low income and disadvantaged communities. So we can give loans. We just internally, for our purposes, we do with this funding have to, I think it's like at least 50% has to go to those LIDAC communities. So for our purposes, we're going to be tracking it and vetting projects to make sure we're hitting the metrics. But so I would say don't, at this stage in the process, if you have an idea and you want to explore it, please get in touch and we start exploring it. And then, hey, if we run into a snag later, then we may, but we've got to start with a big net and see what good projects we can capture and maybe move forward.
Okay, that sounds like a good plan. Thanks.
Awesome. And you know, what it may look like too is because if you guys are picking up on with this being a new program we haven't navigated before, and it's being done under the EPA that frankly has a little bit less experience administering these huge grant programs compared to say HUD or even the Department of Energy. They're getting their systems and information sharing up to speed, which is a reason why we're going to start the process, get some proposals for projects, start to put them through our process. And then what we could do is I can be sharing information. I can share updates as the program really develops further. And we start to run into, okay, so actually this type of a project is near to impossible to apply this funding to, where we're seeing that this type of funding is really the sweet spot. And we encourage more applications either from this area or for this type of a project.
Okay, now you said that we can combine these low interest loans with other grants based on Zeke's question. I'm assuming that includes that if you get one of these low interest loans, you could also still qualify for the 30% direct pay rebate?
Yes. The tax credits don't cancel themselves out working with this financing.
Okay. And I know when it comes to some aspects of that program, when they talk about disadvantaged communities, they also talk about energy communities, like communities that have had a coal plant close since 2009. Do those rules kind of pertain as well for these loans?
I have not, Mary Beth, seen that language called out specifically, but there is so much language around these programs that's a really good thing to flag. And when I return from my holiday in a few weeks, and I'm going back through all these materials again, I'll be looking for that because it's not jumping out at me, but I know exactly what you're referring to, Mary Beth, and how much it does come up. So I can figure out pretty quickly if that's something that's highlighted here.
Okay, and I don't think there's anybody from the Bow Energy Committee on the call today, but we do have a town in New Hampshire that has a coal plant that's closing.
Okay, and that's Bow, New
Bow, yeah,
Hampshire?
BOW. We
Bow, New
pronounce it
Hampshire.
Bow. Mhm.
Okay.
And I believe a brownfield qualifies as an energy community as well if somebody is developing a brownfield for, say, solar. I had a question regarding what Mary Beth was asking, and that is if a town builds the 30% direct pay into their budgeting for a project, for example, but they need to fund it for the period of time of when it's actually goes live and they actually get
Yep.
their direct pay as sort
Mhm.
of a bridge loan, so to speak. Would this be a good candidate for that sort of financing for a town or a church or anything, nonprofit that is looking to just cover the cost until they get their direct pay?
I believe so. Yes, but those are with me being new to lending,
Yeah.
I can say I believe so, and I'm going to have to work more with our lending staff to make sure that I'm representing that correctly.
Okay.
This may be a bit of a tangent, and Frank, you may know the answer, or somebody else may know. I'm curious about what constitutes a brownfield, and I'll be very specific, right? I'm here in Merrimack, and our water has been polluted by Saint Gobain with PFAS, and Saint Gobain is now pulling out, and they're going to demolish the building and leave a bunch of land there that's all contaminated with PFAS that can't be built on. And we at the Energy Committee were just talking about what could possibly be done with that land. So Frank, or anybody, does that seem to maybe fit under a brownfield, or because it's water contamination and not coal, it doesn't fit?
I mean, I know in my region, the Regional Planning Commission is actively compiling a list of brownfields in our area, which is pretty much mostly capped landfills for us.
Mhm.
I don't know what part of state you're in, Mary Beth, but you might
Just
check
north
it.
of Nashua, yeah.
Okay. And maybe Katrin has input on this as well, but that would be one of the places I would check is the Regional Planning Commission, see if they have an inventory. But
Thank you. Yeah, good idea. Okay.
Typically, contaminated land like that is being reclaimed and doesn't have another suited purpose would meet the definition of a brownfield. So I don't know if that specifically fits in your case, but I think it would be a good candidate to consider it as such.
Okay, thank you.
And I agree with Doug on the brownfields question. What I'm not sure is if a brownfield status would automatically qualify with the definition for this funding that's being used for LIDAC, but it is a good question I've noted to see if that is a pathway to secure that LIDAC designation.
Okay, thank you.
I do know that a brownfield does qualify as the quote unquote energy community, similar to like in Bow, maybe where the coal fired plant is being shut down and they want to be able to transition to economic development. So there's those two categories. The one is the actual former energy production, and the other is this brownfield category. But yeah, you'll want to check to find out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to share this with you guys. As you can, I'm sure tell, it's not that we have everything fully baked at the moment, but because it is such an exciting opportunity, I believe in getting the news out soon, get people's, brains going on what is out there. And then I'm personally, like I said, I'm going to take an extended break for the holiday. I'm going to be back in the office on January 10th. And so if you guys over the holidays are noodling on some inspiration that you've had, or spreading the word with others, and I'll be back in the office on January 10th and happy to start talking through projects and see what could be a good fit.
Pat, may I just jump in for 10 seconds and say, my relationship with the loan fund is in a different venue, but if you're not familiar with the community loan fund, it's worth a Google search.
Oh, thank you for saying that, Bruce. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, this is great. Our second speaker, Sarah, hasn't shown up in the meeting yet. We did tell her that Kat would get the first half hour and Sarah would get the second half hour. So I do expect her at any minute. So it's up to you folks if we want to talk amongst ourselves and wait a few minutes to see if Sarah's going to show up or whether we want to just check our emails. I
Well,
will
with that, you guys, I'm gonna say thank you for hosting me, and I'll stay in touch. Like I said, when our information is finalized for public consumption, I'll make sure that the right people know to share it. And then I am happy to be in touch and maybe come back in the future, especially when I'm able to offer even more concrete information. But thank you for entertaining my relatively wide open conversation today. But I love the opportunity to get people thinking about things. So the best of holidays to everybody. And yeah, I look forward to speaking to at least a few of you, it sounds like maybe in 2025.
Terrific. Thank you, Kat. Have a great vacation.
Thank you. Safe travels.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Kat.
I'm going to share a little experience that I had on Tuesday, which indicates, I think, to me anyway, that if you think people know about all these IRA rebates or loan programs or whatever, you can never really assume that they do, and it's always worthwhile to talk to them about it. And in my case, my church creation care team, I'm Catholic, there's a bunch of parishes that join together to form a creation care team. And we met with Robert Ibe, who's the director of real estate for the entire Diocese of New Hampshire, which includes 89 churches and 22 schools. And he did not know about the 30% direct pay. He had no idea that it existed. And he got very excited. So the good news is that we made that connection. So never assume that, people in charge of real estate know as much as we do about what's going on. And it's always worthwhile to broach the subject, just in case you're giving them some good new information.
So Sarah just messaged she will be in a few minutes. Just to give you a heads up, she wanted to talk about the smart solar zoning, the SolSmart program that we are partnering with SolSmart on as a cohort.
While we are waiting, I know I've been doing a lot of talking today, but I have a favor to ask of all of you. So many of you are familiar with community power, and many of you have passed community power in your municipalities, towns, cities, whatever. Here in Merrimack, we passed it, but we have not implemented it yet. And from what I hear from the Community Power Aggregation Committee at the town level, that will be happening in the new year. And of course, Merrimack being very purple-ish, is going to go with the lowest cost of the community power, which is the lowest renewable mix, as opposed to opting up to a 50% or 100 percent renewable. So the Energy Committee was thinking of trying to do an opt-up campaign that would be part of, because everybody in town needs to get a letter notifying them of what's going on and how they'll automatically be moved, unless they either opt out or they can opt up. So have any of you guys had such a thing as an opt-up? Lisa, you have. Okay, great.
Yeah, I won't say it was wildly successful, but we did do a campaign. It was mostly, I don't think we did a mailing. We didn't do a physical mailing, but we did a lot of Facebook, emailed, each of us emailing the people in our circles and just trying to talk it up. And in fact, I think there were some physical signs
I
around
was going to say
town.
somewhere I saw like a yard sign that said opt up,
Yep,
and I can't remember what town it was. So
I think it was Nelson. Yeah.
okay.
I think Patsy Beffa-Negrini made those.
Okay, yep, that wouldn't surprise me. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So
I
in
mean,
Kensington, oh, sorry.
go on, Zeke.
I was going to say in Kensington, we were actually considering even putting up a warrant article to have the default be the 33% instead of the 25%.
Really?
But
Interesting.
we very quickly pushed it back given the recent news about I don't know how to describe what happened with Eversource, but basically now community power and third-party supplier consumers are going to pay the offset of people not on the default power supply. So we're worried that the increase in cost now with community power will be seen negatively. So we didn't want to conflate that with another increase in
Understood. Yeah,
price.
that's a good point. I hadn't thought about the ramifications of that. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good point.
Oof.
And there is one other option, which would be to provide an adder to your base rate so that rather than committing to purchase additional RECs, renewable energy credits, certificates, through the increase in the tariff rate structure, this would be money that would be set aside for a future community project that would be
Yeah, I
more
tried
directly under
that
your
with mine
control.
and they, for whatever reason, this committee was against it because well, they wanted to make sure all the possible savings, even if it was 1/30th of 1 penny, went to the consumers, basically because the townspeople were really pissed off that our taxes went up so much. So that they
Yeah.
feel like community power is throwing them a bone. Here, we're helping you lower your electric costs a little bit because because your taxes went up by $1,200,
No, that's right. And so, and you're not alone that way. Most towns are looking at it very much in the economic vein that this is a way to reduce their electric bills, and that's fine. But it is a way of not jumping up to the full, I believe, at least under the current rate structure, if memory serves, it goes from 8.6 to maybe 9.3 if you go up to the next schedule for purchasing 33% renewables. Um, with an adder, you could pick it at just a tenth of a cent a
right,
kilowatt
right.
hour
It's
or
just
some smaller
minuscule, but
number.
right, right.
But
The base rate
it's
is big.
still more than the base rate. So if
Yeah,
people want nothing but the base rate, then that's
yeah,
not going to help you.
yeah.
But just want to let you know that that's another
Thank you
option.
for those ideas.
Sure.
At least the things you're coming up with are things we've already thought of, so it's not like we're totally in the dark.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
Doug, I should know this already, but did I hear you say that the cleaner energy options are actually not direct clean energy, they're clean through RECs?
I think effectively the way that they are, it's done kind of through accounting, and so that there are RECs that can be purchased on the market to increase the support for renewable energy projects. So there is sort of a one-off connection with the projects themselves, but it's through the RECs that they are satisfying these additional uh, increases in renewable energy generation. It's done through that mechanism, as I understand it.
Thanks. That might be a good selling point for raising the funds locally to do energy efficiency or other good projects in town as opposed to paying
Yeah,
more for.
right. And some RECs can be purchased out of the region, and so there really isn't even any local or regional benefit. And some RECs are not all RECs are created equal necessarily. Some are more local, and some are really kind of more green.
hmm
A big REC from Hydro Quebec, is may have less value than a local solar project that is more in your backyard.
Thank
All
you.
right, Sarah has joined us, so thank you, Sarah, for joining us. And see, we got on other topics while we were waiting for you, but now you're here and we're finished talking amongst ourselves, so we will let you take it over with regard to this smart solar.
Sure. And thank you for your patience. I'm sorry I had something come up that took me away, but I will get my team to catch me up on the first half of the meeting. We just wanted to flag for you something that has come up for us, honestly, since we last had one of these monthly chats. And that is, I'm curious to pulse check this with you all. We, as an energy circuit rider team, periodically get questions about solar zoning, a little bit less so about solar permitting, but we had in years past had a model solar ordinance that was drafted in 2018 that really no one uses anymore, and we don't recommend folks use, but we don't really have a better alternative. We had started to learn about a national program called SolSmart, which is funded by the US Department of Energy, and encourage some communities to go in that direction. But we've just in the last month sort of gotten more connected with SolSmart and decided to go ahead and run cohort in the spring that's open to anybody and will be free, and will certainly, capture as much of that learning so that folks who aren't able to participate can still benefit. But the idea is that for any towns that are willing and ready and able, we'll have a short period of time, probably somewhere in the February to May zone, where we'll just have some periodic meetings. You'll get concentrated one-on-one support to work on a plan and some improvements. The basic model of what we think will happen is what communities that express interest will sign up. This national organization has people on staff who specialize in zoning, who will review whatever the current situation is on both the solar zoning and permitting side of things, and provide a report back that sort of breaks down how your zoning stacks up with best practices and recommendations for what could be improved. From there are some recommendations for what you can do. In some cases, it may be just helping you strategize how to go from where you are to proposing updates in zoning and what that would look like, and getting some help. On the permitting side, there's some really good models and advice about how to streamline is not the right word, how to make more transparent what the process is for solar permitting. Make sure that information is online, that it's really legible, that the town is not becoming the barrier and the hang up to projects going forward at the point at which they're within the zoning expectations. And from what we can tell, the SolSmart folks are really smart and very adaptable, and we're excited about the idea that we might have multiple towns doing this together, because I think the learning from each other component is really powerful. And we've not done a cohort style really anything as a team, and if it goes well, we might do more of them, as there are things that we see folks working on in isolation on other sides of the state. We may be trying to more proactively bring you together to help folks work jointly over a period of time to solve problems. And this is just a first case. So I wanted to take the opportunity of letting you know this is happening. I'm putting in the chat a little blurb that we're going to start sending around. There'll be an information session on the 22nd of January at noon that we can record. That'll be, the staff from SolSmart will be there. There'll be more information about what this is going to be, and an opportunity to enroll, so to speak, really any time between now and early mid-February, and then we'll kick that off. The first step will be expressing interest and then getting that free assessment of your current zoning and permitting practices, which in and of itself is highly valuable for free. And then the subsequent opportunities to get your, whether it's elected officials or appointed officials or staff, some customized training, get some models, to get some help charting out what a plan is. And I didn't mention master planning, but that is a piece that they can also help folks with. And I know some towns are conveniently in that process, and obviously master planning relates to what then trickles down into zoning. So we just wanted to cross that over your radar. I would be very curious if that jogs anything for any of you. Is anyone reacting to that with a, oh, that sounds great? Is anyone reacting to that with a yuck, or a, here's an anecdote you should be aware of to help inform that going well, or thoughts on what would be most helpful if we're going to bother going through this? What would be most helpful to make sure that we do?
Nelson signing up.
Okay.
We'll be there.
Awesome.
Sounds good to me
Lisa.
too.
That's good. That's good to hear.
Yeah, we don't have zoning in our town, so we're so small, I don't really even know, like, what would this get us if we were to do it.
I think that's a great question, and I don't know the answer, but I would personally really love to ask that question of SolSmart and see what they say. I wonder what their advice would be for a town that has nothing. They might be able to help you think through the pros and cons of continuing to have nothing and sort of how to anticipate and navigate in a world where you persist in having no zoning. And I would be curious if you have any experience on the ground in Tamworth, right? To to inform whether this has become a sticking point for you or whether it hasn't really been an issue that there's no zoning.
I mean, the intent, just to understand the
Yeah.
concept, the intent is to have clarity on somebody who wants to develop a solar project in town, like how to go about doing that.
Yeah, I mean, where we see it coming to a head, it's typically the ground mounted systems, but kind of any size. And we run into an issue where a landowner wants to do a thing. If there are already rules, that is a whole lot easier because then it's just a matter of, do I fit in the rules or do I need to go after a variance? If there aren't any rules, developers tell us that they won't even touch the community sometimes because it can be a wild west and you just don't know if if the relevant, planning zoning boards or the select board are just gonna throw out the project or let you do it. It's so unpredictable. That can be a problem. And some of our towns have had really awful horror stories of, residents fighting projects to the nail and resulting in really scary zoning policies. It can be. And I see Catherine took off her video, and Sandwich is sadly a poster child for coming up with local opposition. Do you want to say anything,
Well,
Catherine?
I was going to say, Catherine
Yes.
T had her hand raised.
Oh yes, two Catherines.
Yeah. So Catherine B, why
I
don't
was
you go ahead,
I was
and then
specifically pointing to
Catherine
Catherine T, even though she was second, because I happen to know she has a relevant point on this.
Okay, then go ahead, Catherine T, and then we'll get to Catherine.
Hi, I'm in Sunapee. I'm here because I'm on an energy aggregation committee, and we're taking hopefully a warrant article to town meeting on March. But we're also, I'm part of a ad hoc solar committee. We're hoping we could put solar at our wastewater treatment plant, but this zoning issue has just come up in Sunapee. So I actually am very interested in this. I'm not on a zoning or planning board. However, there was a hearing in Sunapee in which a project actually failed. The application did not go forward because Sunapee, although it's had zoning for years, has nothing in it about solar. And it's hard to believe, but that is the case. So the town has drafted an amendment that they're going to discuss this evening, and I'm going to listen to the discussion, but I'm very interested in this, and I do not know what's going to happen in Sunapee as it relates to this particular project. Because actually, solar is not even mentioned in the zoning. The word solar is not there.
Catherine, did you say this is addressing the solar project at the wastewater treatment plant, or is it the other
No,
large scale array?
No, I think the wastewater treatment plant will not be impacted by the fact that Sunapee doesn't speak to solar because it's a town facility. And this is not a commercial effort to bring solar as the wastewater treatment plant. However, the project that just is come before the planning board is a large solar farm in rural residential. And so the town doesn't have any zoning that speaks to that. So I'm curious to what happened in Sandwich.
Well, do you want me to go ahead?
Yeah,
Sarah?
go ahead. Thanks.
So, Sandwich, what Sarah was referring to was our solar array, our municipal solar array that we tried to pass last year. There came out of the woodwork a group who call themselves the Concerned Citizens of Sandwich, and they put on a huge campaign and they stopped the project. So, what's happening now, Sarah, with the zoning is this same group has presented to the planning board petition article that they do not want, they want very restricted zoning. And so we met privately with them as a subcommittee of the planning board, because the energy committee is not the town committee that does zoning. It's the planning board. So the planning board chair wanted to sort of do a subcommittee to see if we can't talk reasonably with these folks. So we met a couple members of the energy committee, a couple members of the planning board, and a couple members of this opposition concerned citizens group. And it seemed to go fine. We got the solar zoning done without using SolSmart, and I'll say something about that in a minute. But again, out of the woodwork, now that we're having our public hearing in a week and a half for the warrant article that the planning board has done, using all of us together, they have now done a petitioned warrant solar zoning article that is back to the restrictive thing. So they're again blocking what the town has worked cooperatively to do. So my question about SolSmart is, it seemed to be, and I noticed you said it runs February to May, it seems to be quite a commitment, that it's not just getting on the phone and talking to somebody and having them check what you're doing. And I can't remember exactly. So maybe you could explain that, because I think the Sandwich Planning Board wanted to just get a basic solar zoning, not for residential, but only for large commercial money-making solar arrays. And only because of what we heard of what happened in Franklin, and we wanted to protect the town legally from any issues with that. So they chose not to go ahead with SolSmart.
Yeah, part of why we're running this cohort is because in attempting to refer folks to SolSmart nationally, if you go onto the SolSmart website, which you certainly can, I have found it to be a little bit overwhelming because it has the national gloss on it. It pegs itself as a certificate program. You can be bronze, silver, or gold. There's a whole multi-page complicated checklist of points they want you to get. It appears very overwhelming. When we've been talking to their actual staff, they have been surprisingly willing and interested in customizing what they offer and bending their expectations of what it is. We were very clear that New Hampshire communities, pardon my language, okay, we're recording, I will not swear, do not care about bronze status in some national SolSmart thing. What they want is a person on the phone who can look at what they're dealing with and help them work through customized solutions. And so that's what we're working to make this cohort be. I have also been trying one-on-one now that we know the people at SolSmart. When something comes up, in fact, Catherine, I'm looking at an email from Mark Longley. I got him to send me over what that group had put out and what the drafts are, and I'm going to connect him directly with the SolSmart staff and see if they can't just get someone to do that review without having to go through the formal thing, because that's more like the kind of TA that we need. So we're working on that, and I'm very aware that the program as advertised is a little hard to know how you can just get help.
Okay, great. That is great, because those 3 levels.
I had the same reaction, and honestly, I feel badly. This is why we haven't taken it seriously until now, because when it was referred to us, I went, okay, I guess we'll refer people here, but I don't know how New Hampshire communities are going to feel about this. And it was nice to finally get connected and come up with a third path.
Right.
Sarah, would it be good for Catherine and others to join that meeting on January 22nd and also sign up for the updates as
what a good plug, Frank. Yes.
The
next step on this.
What's that?
Yeah, the next step on this is, so I sent you that link to open. It's just a Google Doc, but what is in there is a link to a Google form. Put your name and your contact. I'm just collecting a list of folks who want to hear. We're in active development right now of what this will look like. But put the 22nd on your calendar. The Zoom link is right there. That's just going to be an open meeting like this, and we'll get to meet the SolSmart folks, and you'll hear what's going on. But I will also email you if you give me your address in that little form, to let you know what the structure of the program is, etc. But just knowing it's coming will be helpful. We're putting this together kind of quickly because the time of year to do it is winter, and we're just gonna run with it.
So Sarah, do you want us to actually write in that Google Doc, just right under the
Well,
blurb?
no, I mean, you could. I don't think you have permissions to. What I'm referring to is under for more information, there's two hyperlinks. One is the link to the Zoom meeting for the 22nd. I recommend just putting that in your calendar if you have a digital calendar, and that will be the link to the meeting. And then the second
Okay.
is a link to a Google form where I
Okay.
asked you to just give me your name if you want me to keep you posted on what's going on with this program.
Got it. Sorry, I didn't.
No worries.
I
I
was
was
like,
not clear.
I saw the thing was so easy to just copy the link and put it on my
Yeah.
calendar, but now I understand. It's not. Yeah. Yeah.
Although don't worry, Frank will make sure that you get what you need to know.
Yeah,
But for
but
the rest of you
I'm
that don't have a Frank, we want to make sure that you don't
we are
get
so
lost.
lucky to have a Frank, I have to say.
Yes. Yes.
But anyway, yeah, I will sign up.
That is all I wanted to say. We are now at time, but thank you for puzzling out loud about some of the reasons why this matters, and let's all stay in touch about it. There'll be lots more opportunities in the new year to compare horror stories about zoning and try to help each other out. And Catherine, I can copy you as well if you'd like on this
Yes.
email connecting with SolSmart. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Great.
All right, thanks,
you,
everybody.
Sarah.
I will send out the recording and the notes and the saved chat if I can, as soon as I
Thank
can.
you.
So thank
Thank
you all
you,
very
Mary Beth.
much. Have a nice evening.
All right, see you in the new year. Happy New Year.
Bye. Happy New Year. Bye-bye.